It was a cold and stormy night. Thunder shook the sky, and rain fell like tiny needles from the dark clouds. Far away from the city, an old farmer named John was sitting inside his wooden house. He lived alone on a quiet piece of land with only his dog Max for company. Life was slow and silent, just the way he liked it. But that night was different. At exactly 2:43 a.m., a loud sound broke the silence. It wasn't thunder. It was something else, a deep crashing sound, as if the sky had fallen. Max jumped up and barked wildly, running toward the barn. John stood up, grabbed his flashlight, and followed. His boots splashed through the mud as he ran across the field. The wind blew hard. Something felt wrong. When he reached the barn, the doors were wide open, swinging in the wind. Smoke was rising from inside. The smell was strange, like burning metal and flowers. He stepped in carefully. His flashlight shook in his hand. There, in the middle of the barn, was something he had never seen before. A broken spaceship. Its surface was silver and glowing faintly blue. Parts of it were on fire. Strange symbols blinked along the side. Next to the wreckage, a tall, glowing figure lay on the ground. She was not human. Her skin was soft gray, her eyes large and silver, and her body covered in a thin armor-like suit. She was bleeding a strange blue liquid, spilled across the hay. John froze. The alien woman turned her head slowly and looked at him. Her eyes were full of pain. And something else, fear. She tried to speak, but her voice was soft and broken. John stepped closer. I won't hurt you, he said, not knowing if she could even understand him. To his shock, she lifted her hand and pointed to her stomach. She was pregnant. Before he could react, she screamed a high, echoing sound that made the barn walls shake. Within seconds, a small baby slipped into the hay. John stared in shock. The woman took a deep, painful breath and picked up the baby in weak arms. She looked into the child's eyes, then turned toward John. Slowly, she placed the baby into his hands. Her voice came like a whisper, soft, broken, but clear. He must live. He must learn. You are now his father. Her eyes closed. Her head dropped. She was gone. John looked down at the small alien child in his arms. It wasn't crying. Its skin was pale gray, but its eyes glowed bright blue. It looked straight into his eyes, as if it knew him. Max growled low and backed away. Suddenly, the barn door slammed shut by itself. John turned around, heart racing. Outside, the storm grew louder. Inside, the baby blinked. And all the fires in the barn went out. Just like that. Darkness. Only the sound of the rain hitting the roof remained. John stood there for a long moment, not knowing what to do. He wrapped the baby in his old coat and walked slowly back to the house. His hands were shaking. His mind was spinning. What had just happened? Who was she? What was this child? That night he didn't sleep. He sat by the fireplace, the baby in a basket nearby. The child didn't cry, didn't move, just stared at the flames with glowing eyes. John knew one thing for sure. His life would never be the same again. Somewhere in the dark sky, a light blinked. Far away, watching. The next morning, the sun rose, but John didn't feel its warmth. He had been awake all night. The baby, no, the creature still sat in the same basket near the fireplace, eyes wide open, not crying, not moving, just watching. Most babies cry when they are hungry. This one didn't. Most babies sleep. This one hadn't closed its eyes even once. John poured himself a cup of coffee with shaky hands. Max, his loyal dog, stayed far from the child, hiding under the table. His tail didn't wag. He only stared, ears back, like he sensed something that John said. OULDN, single quotes. Outside, the sky was clear now. The storm was gone. The world looked normal again, but John knew nothing was normal anymore. He walked to the basket and knelt beside the child. You hungry? He asked, even though he knew the answer. The baby just blinked. John reached out and touched its tiny hand. It was warm, not cold, not rubbery, not slimy. Just warm, like a human baby. But its fingers were longer than normal, and they glowed faintly blue at the tips. John took a deep breath. "All right, let's try this." He brought a bottle of warm milk. The baby didn't drink it. It didn't even open its mouth. "Okay, maybe later." He sat on the floor, tired, confused, afraid. Then, suddenly, the baby moved. It turned its head slowly and looked straight into John's eyes. And then, in a voice soft as wind, it spoke one word: "Father." John's heart skipped a beat. He dropped the coffee mug. It shattered. He stared at the baby. "What did you say?" The child blinked again, but said nothing more. John stood up, stunned. A 6-hour-old baby just called him father. He picked up the child. "You understand me?" No reply. But when John stepped near the window, the baby raised one hand and the glass frosted over, as if touched by winter. John stepped back quickly. He didn't know what to do. That night, something even stranger happened. John went to the barn. He couldn't leave her, the alien mother, unburied. It didn't feel right. He dug a grave behind the barn, beneath an old apple tree. As he laid her body to rest, something sharp pricked his hand. He looked down. A strange metal shard, glowing faintly, had cut his skin. It looked like part of the ship wreckage. Within seconds, the blood vanished, and a symbol appeared on his skin, like a small tattoo, glowing faintly blue. He tried to rub it off. It didn't go. He stared at it, then back at the grave. "What did you leave me with?" he whispered. That same night, around 3 a.m., John woke up to a strange sound. Not crying. Not footsteps. A voice. Not from inside the house, but from the baby monitor. Static, then clicking sounds. Then whispers. Alien whispers. John ran to the baby. The child was standing in the crib, not sitting, standing. Its eyes were glowing brighter now, and it was facing the sky, arms raised, speaking in a language John had never heard. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He just stood there frozen, and for the first time in his life, he felt truly, completely small, like something much, much bigger had just arrived in his world. As John reaches for the child, the radio in the kitchen turns on by itself. A voice comes through the static. Low, robotic, unclear, but one word is clear: location found. The radio was never plugged in. John was sure of that. And yet, at exactly 3:07 a.m., it crackled to life again. He sat frozen at the kitchen table, staring at the old boxy device. It hadn't worked in years. Dust still covered the knobs. But now, soft static buzzed in the quiet night. A voice was hidden inside it, deep, mechanical, broken into pieces by interference. "Low, Tayan Jurake." Then silence. John stood up slowly. He didn't blink. Behind him, in the hallway, a soft blue light was glowing under the baby's room door. He walked forward. He opened the door. And the child was floating, not high, just a few inches above the crib. But he was not touching the ground. His eyes were wide open. His tiny hands were lifted, and the glowing symbol on John's arm began to pulse with each of the child's heartbeats. John whispered, "What are you?" The child slowly came back down, like a feather in the wind. He looked at John and said nothing. But in his mind, John heard a whisper, not with ears, but from inside his skull. "They are listening." The next day, John tried to act normal. He chopped wood, fed Max, made breakfast, all while the alien child, who now looked almost 2 years old, despite being only a few days old, followed him silently. The child still didn't eat, still didn't sleep, but he watched. Always watching. John didn't tell anyone. Who would believe him? But something strange happened when he walked past the old radio again. It turned on by itself. This time, no voice, but a blue hologram appeared. It hovered above the radio like a flickering flame. Then it formed an image. The alien mother, her face full of sadness, she was speaking. Her voice came through clear this time. My child is not safe. He is more than just a survivor. He is a key. John leaned closer. A war is coming. He must live. To choose the world he will save. Protect him, from them, and from yourself. The hologram faded. John stood in silence. A key to what war? What did she mean from yourself? He looked at the child. The boy stood still, his face blank. But his eyes were no longer glowing blue. They were glowing white now. That night, helicopters flew over the farm. Black, silent, no logos. No flashing lights. John turned off all lights in the house. He looked through the blinds. Men in suits walked through the fields with scanners in their hands. Max growled low. John turned to the child and whispered, "Can you hide us?" The child didn't speak, but the moment the flashlight beams passed by the windows, they simply bent away. Like the light didn't want to touch the house. The helicopters passed overhead. The scanners beeped, then went silent. Then they left, just like that. After they're gone, John notices something burned into his barn roof. He climbs up to see it. Large alien symbols, glowing faintly, scorched into the wood. He doesn't know what they say. But the child walks up behind him and says his first full sentence. They marked us. Asterisk. It started with the birds. Hundreds of them. Silent. Still. All sitting on the power lines outside John's farmhouse. They came just before dawn. Black silhouettes against the orange sky. They didn't sing. They didn't fly. They just watched the house. John stood at the window, holding a hot cup of coffee that had long gone cold. His hands didn't shake anymore. He was getting used to the strange, but this was new. The boy, now looking 5 years old, despite only being alive for 7 days, stood barefoot in the kitchen. His glowing eyes stared out at the birds. He tilted his head, and in that moment, every bird turned its head toward the boy. Then, without warning, they flew away together, like a single mind. John set his cup down. What are you becoming? Later. That day, the child sat in the field, hands buried in the soil. John watched from the porch. Suddenly, small green vines began to grow from the dirt, wrapping around the child's fingers, blooming into wildflowers instantly. It hadn't rained in days. The ground should have been dry. John walked toward him. Are you doing that? The boy nodded. I'm learning, he said. Learning what? The boy looked up, his eyes brighter now. What I am. Inside the house, John found the child drawing. Not with crayons, not with pens, with light. Blue shapes hovered in the air, floating diagrams, strange circular symbols, glowing equations made of energy. The air around the child crackled faintly, like a storm hiding in the walls. Stop, John said, a little louder than he meant to. The drawings vanished. The child looked down, quiet. I'm sorry, he whispered. John sighed. I'm not angry. I just don't understand what's happening to you. The boy looked at him. Me neither. That night, something else changed. John was in bed when he heard a low hum, not outside. Not the radio. Inside him, his skin burned. He rolled up his sleeve. The glowing mark on his arm had spread across his chest, like veins of light. Lines, circles, alien script. It pulsed like it was alive. He looked toward the child's room. The boy was standing in the hallway already. I'm sorry, he said again. I didn't mean to mark you. John's voice cracked. What does it mean? It means you're part of me now. The next morning, a stranger arrived. A woman. Mid-50s, calm face, science in her eyes. She parked a dusty van half a mile down the road and walked to the farmhouse like she'd done it 100 times. John met her with a shotgun in hand. I don't want trouble. I know you don't, she said calmly. But it already found you. Who are you? I'm the one person who might be able to explain what's living in your house. She showed a badge, not government, not military. Something else. Private, unknown, trusted by no one, but her eyes told the truth. John let her in. Inside, she looked at the boy and froze. She whispered, "It's real." She knelt down. I studied his mother's species for 20 years. I never thought I'd see the next generation. John watched her carefully. Is he dangerous? She looked up. No, but he's becoming something the world's not ready for. She opened a small metal case. Inside, a glowing shard, just like the one that had marked John. She held it near the child. The boy screamed. His skin flickered metal beneath flesh, then returned to normal. The woman stood. This material, it weakens him. It's from the ones who killed his kind. John stepped between them. Then keep it away from him. The woman nodded. But you need to know. Others are coming, not just humans. Not just Earth. That night, while everyone slept, the boy stood outside again. He raised his hand to the sky, and above the clouds, something moved. Not an airplane. Not a star. A large black object, silent and watching. The boy spoke softly in a language unknown. I am here. I am ready. The boy was dreaming, but the dream wasn't his. In the vision, 2 suns hung above a red sky. Below, a city of glass towers burned. Creatures tall, armored, eyes like fire ran through the smoke. Ships screamed through the air, shooting beams of light. And in the center of the chaos stood a woman, his mother, holding a glowing crystal in one hand and a human photo in the other. The boy woke up gasping. John rushed in. You okay? The boy looked at him and whispered, I saw her. I saw where she died. The next morning, the woman scientist sat on the porch with John, flipping through a black notebook filled with alien symbols and drawings. She spoke quietly. Your boy. He's not just a child of 2 species. He's a child of 2 wars. John frowned. What does that mean? His mother's people were at war, not with Earth, with each other. There were 2 factions. One wanted peace with Earth. The other didn't want Earth to exist. She flipped to a page with a symbol that looked like the one on John's arm. That mark on you, it's a link bond. Only given to protectors. You're more than just his guardian now. If he dies, so do you. John didn't speak for a long time. Then he simply said, then he's not dying. Inside the barn, the boy was changing again. His bones ached. His eyes flickered between colors. His skin glowed when he touched metal. And the air around him vibrated when he stood still too long. He sat in the dust and placed both hands on the ground. The earth beneath him cracked, and a small holographic pillar rose from the soil. It played a message. A voice not from his mother, but from someone else. A deep, sharp voice. You were hidden on Earth to survive. But soon, you must choose who you are. You are not only there. Son, you are ours too. The boy stood still. Something inside him opened, like a door long locked. That night, the scientist showed John something she had never shared with anyone. Map of space signals tracked from alien satellites. She pointed to a sharp spike on the chart. This signal only happens when a royal bloodline sends a pulse. Your boy is being hunted by blood. John stared at the map. What happens if they find him? The woman didn't answer, but her silence said everything. Later, while John checked the barn security, the boy walked into the field. He raised one hand toward the sky again, and this time, something answered. A beam of silver light came down silently from above the clouds. The grass around him blew outward. The sky bent. The boy didn't flinch. Inside the beam, his body floated a few feet. His eyes went completely white. He whispered one sentence. I am both. I am not afraid. Then the beam vanished. He dropped back to the ground gently. John ran to him. Are you hurt? No, the boy said. But they know I'm alive now. Suspense end for episode 5. At midnight, the barn's radio crackled again. This time, not a message, a countdown. 10, 9, 8. John smashed the radio. But in the distance, far beyond the field, the clouds split open and something fell from the sky. Asterisk. The sound wasn't thunder. It was boots. Marching. Dozens of them. Heavy, precise, coming straight for the house. John stood at the window, shotgun in hand, heart beating like a war drum. The boy stood beside him, silent, calm. "They found us," John whispered. The boy nodded. "They've always known." Floodlights lit up the fields, black vans. Soldiers in. Masks, guns ready. A voice came from a loudspeaker. "John Carter, you are harboring a dangerous non-human. Step outside with the child, or we come in." John didn't move. He looked at the boy, and for the first time, the boy looked scared. "I don't want to leave you." John placed a hand on his shoulder. "You won't, I promise." The woman scientist pulled John aside. "We have two options," she said quickly. 1, you run. They'll hunt you forever. 2, you hand the child over. We try to negotiate." John laughed bitterly. Negotiate with who? Men with guns? Or the thing that fell from the sky last night? She looked away. "You don't understand," she said softly. "He's not just in danger. He is the danger." John's jaw tightened. "That boy saved my life. He calls me father. I won't hand him over." "Then you better start saying goodbye." Inside the barn, the boy sat alone. He drew in the dirt with glowing fingers, a circle with 2 broken stars. He spoke aloud to no one. "I'm not supposed to love him, but I do." Outside, soldiers loaded something large off a truck. A containment unit the size of a trailer, glowing with pulsing red light. It was made of the same material that weakened the boy. John saw it, and something inside him snapped. He marched out into the floodlights. Hands raised. The soldiers aimed. John shouted, "You want the truth? The boy's not a weapon. He's not an alien freak. He's a child, mine." The commander stepped forward, cold eyes. "No emotion. You don't get to choose anymore." Suddenly, a blast of energy shot from the barn. Every soldier was thrown backward, weapons flying. The boy stepped out. His feet didn't touch the ground, eyes white, skin glowing silver, but tears streamed down his face. "I told you not to come." The wind roared around him. Machines melted, metal bent. Radios screamed, and then the boy dropped to his knees. His power collapsed. He whispered, "I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to be like them." John ran to him, pulled him close. "You're not like them," he said. "You're mine. That's all that matters." The scientist ran forward, shouting, "You have to let him go." John turned. "No. If he stays, Earth becomes a war zone. I don't care." "John," she said, voice breaking, "listen to me. If you really love him, you have to let him choose." John looked down at the boy. "Is this what you want?" The boy looked up. "I don't know who I am yet." John swallowed hard. "Then go find out. But remember who held you the first night, who stayed when no one else would." "I will," the boy whispered. The boy walked into the containment unit himself. As the doors closed, he looked at John one last time. "Goodbye, father." But just before it sealed, John stepped into. And the whole unit vanished in a flash of light. The soldiers stood frozen. The field was empty. Nothing remained. The world forgot them. The news said it was a weather balloon. The internet moved on in 48 hours. No body, no wreckage, no story. The farmhouse was sold. The barn was torn down. The grass grew over the place where stars once fell. But in the wind, if you listened close, you could still hear a child's voice whisper, "Goodbye, father." 1 year later, a boy stood in the middle of a desert. Not 5 years old. 10. But something in between. Always changing. He wore no shoes. No shadow, but his heart remembered. The feel of rough hands lifting him, of warm soup, of a voice saying, "It's okay. I've got you." He looked up at the stars, and then he began to build, not a weapon, not a ship, something different. A beacon. Far away, in a small cabin near the mountains, a radio came to life. No wires. No power. Just a whisper. Transmission received. The Kokon, near the mountains. A radio came to life. No wires. No power. Just a whisper. Transmission received. Scientist sat up, eyes wide. He's still alive. She turned the dial. A single phrase repeated in the static. He remembers. Inside a starship floating in deep space, John stood at a window. His face was tired but peaceful. He was older now, but not broken. He wasn't prisoner. He wasn't dead. He had been changed, not by machines. Not by aliens, but by love. He pressed a hand to the glass as stars drifted by. He's learning, he whispered. He's choosing. Back on Earth, strange symbols appeared again in the sky. Soft, glowing, only for a moment. People called them glitches. Signals. Northern lights. But they weren't random. They were a message. Story told in 7 parts. A warning. A memory. A goodbye. In the desert. The boy's beacon lit up for the first time. Not with energy. With emotion. The signal carried no words, just one feeling. Hope. And in a language older than stars. He sent his final message across the galaxies. I am not a weapon. I am not your experiment. I am not a mistake. I am my father's son. In a quiet field where the farmhouse once stood, a second object fell from the sky. Softly. Silently. This time, no fire. No crash. Just a child stepping out. Older. Stronger. His eyes, no longer glowing. Just human. He knelt in the grass. Touched the earth. Smiled. And whispered, I'm home.